for step 20, we need to attach the mechanism box to the top of the chassis, because this kit's quite different in that it's really not a bathtub where you put in everything and then you've got access to it. You in fact are putting everything into this box and then it's getting screwed in by these 6 screws, and it's more permanent. If you needed to access this, you'd have to take all this apart to get to it. I'm not convinced I'm thrilled with the setup for this, which probably explains why they switched it for the Boomerang and the Super Sabre, and then again another update when the Thundershock came out, because this seems like you're closing everything off too much. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Here's all the hardware that we need. Got it all ready to go. So we'll set this up and let's install the mechanism box. So because of the way you have to install this into the car, I've actually decided that this receiver is probably going to stay with the car. So I've done what they originally said, where you put the aerial inside the zap strap and then this is going to go up where it normally would. But I just don't think I'm going to have the access to the receiver with this without taking apart a lot of the car every time you wanted it. So I think that's going to be a permanent thing. So the first thing I think we're going to do here is, you can see that the switch needs to be put into the boot and then attached to the top before we can actually put this on. So we need to work on this little one right here. And again, I decided to use the Tamiya ESC that I had for this. And obviously if it's a hobby wing, you're going to have to attach this differently, which I think I'll be able to show you once we get this on. Obviously the boot won't work for it anymore, which, you know, is protecting it from the water, dirt, etc. But it may not matter, because the hobby wing ESC is supposed to be waterproof. So that might be just a minor point, but we'll see how this ends up fitting before we can really talk about that, I guess. But let's just see. So you have to take this off, because that screw and that plate don't have anything to do with it now, because they want you sticking this, and you can see off, on, and I already put the sticker on. The on is here, which means we flip this over. This is now going to fit the rubber boot over top so that it's that way. And then we have to screw this onto the chassis. So this, if I was to kind of turn it around just to make this easy, this has to fit cable forward like that, which means that we need to stick that on there. And in fact, if I'll try to turn it over this way so you can see what I'm doing. It's got to somehow fit like that, which means we need to grab one of the little screws and the washers. Now, I'll have to do it this way. It's not the easiest of things to do on this kit in terms of how you install this. So let's try this again. I'm gonna grab the body, gotta grab this, and I'm gonna put in the screw, and I'm going to screw this in. Somehow. Okay, and I'm not going to screw it in all the way yet, because I need to get the other one on. Let's bring this back. Get that in there. go. I have to admit, this is a bit of an awkward setup. Okay, so I'm going to tighten these in a bit. Okay, you can feel the switch in there. Okay, so let me just see how that's fitting, because I obviously want to have this on tight, but the rubber boot's going to end up creating a bit of a sort of like a sponge effect here. So it's going to be soft when you're attaching this. But you can tighten it down. Well, it's in, but you can see now that we've got the switches in place, but now all of the cabling and everything else needs to attach to the underside of here. So as long as we've got everything out of the way, which we mostly do, you can see that this all has to fit underneath. Well, just because of the way this is sitting, you can see how that has to sit right like this. So as long as everything is out of the way, this box is going to end up sitting just like that. But I just want to make sure that we've got any of the cabling out of the way. But no, that switch plate is now in the way. So I have to take another look at that. So just so you can see this, what I discovered is that this switch can't be screwed down all the way until the mechanism box is in, because you see that there's a gap here. Well, this has to fit in between so that it will fit nicely onto the chassis. So you can see here, this needs to fit between the rubber boot, and you can see it there. Now it's on, and it's on all the way around, and I don't have anything sticking out, so I know that that is correct. So if we take a look at, there are 4 of the smaller ones, 2 of the bigger ones, those MA1 screws. So I want to deal with the MA1s at the moment. So you can see that the way that's going to fit, this one here has to go into the front, or whoops, hold up, there. These are where the 2 longest screws go. So basically right where the stabilizer bar is, that's got to go into the bottom of the chassis mechanism box. So I'm just getting it started so I can feel that it's going in. I'm going to grab the other MA1 screw, which again is going to go right there on the front. And it's got to make sure that it's going into there. Yes. There we go. So that's the 2 longest screws. Then we're left with these 4 MA3s, which you can see are going to go all the way around. So we've got one here, which I will screw down a little bit. Yes. We've got one up here. We've got one here. And we've got one on the other side right there. So these 4 screws need to be screwed down. So I'm going to do that and then we'll come back. So there we go. There is the mechanism box attached. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws that have to be tightened. They're the 2 big ones, and then these ones are the smaller size ones, the MA3. And you can see underneath, once that's attached, these the steering tie rods are supposed to fit onto it. Now what I did notice, and if I can get this set up properly, is if we were to look at these, let's do it this way, and kind of have a guide, just sort of see how they would fit. They actually are in line and they're slightly towed in, which is how they want it. So I'm actually going to snap those on at this point, just more or less what they've said. Now the only other thing that I would say is here, now that the mechanism box is attached, we can go ahead and tighten these up, because now it's also tightening to the other side, which means it'll pinch the mechanism box and the switch, which means that it will nicely be sealed up. Yeah, because you can see in here, the box itself is now inside and between the rubber as well. So this is now a solid switch, but it's also keeping dirt, grime, water, etc. out of it. So that is that, which means that on this side, let's get these on. In fact, I'm going to turn it over and we can grab our pliers. We're going to grab this one here, and you can see that's going to pop on. So let's do that. One end on the ball, one onto the piece. Snap that one on. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Got the ball and the connector. And there we go. So you can see, hopefully, that from this side, in fact, I'll do it this way, you can see that the toe is just a little bit, and of course there's going to be fine-tuning with the transmitter to get it correct, because this one is shifted, but I also know that I've moved this and it may not quite be in the right place either. But either way, there we go. There is our steering rods attached. Mechanism box is in place. So we are finished with step 20. So now we're going to move on to step 21 and work on attaching the driver figure. And of course, we've got to paint him up.